Well, welcome back to the Added Time podcast with me, Alan Myers, and the former Everton, Manchester City and Burnley midfielder Tony Grant. And I'm delighted to say we're joined in the studio this week by our special guest, Peter Hooton from The Farm. Obviously you've got a lot more things about you, but The Farm is what you're known as.
So,
Peter, it's great to have you in. Massive Liverpool fan, of course.
Yeah.
Let's take you back first of all to the creation of The Farm. And one thing I found out last night was that it was named not because of Cantrell Farm, which a lot of people think, which is where you were sort of from, the area, if you like. But obviously, was it a farm that you used to rehearse in Lydia's?
A farm just outside McGull. Yeah. And I'm not actually from Cantrell Farm, but I was a youth and community worker on Cantrell Farm. Right. So it gets very confusing, and it's all urban myth anyway, but I remember someone did a competition once when we had the Spartacus out, and it was a #1 album, said, phone in competition, where are the farm from? And someone rang up with Caddick Farm outside McGull. Wow. Wrong. Someone rang up, said, Cantrell Farm, yes, you've got, they won.
Was there a steward's inquiry at that time, at that point?
Yeah, it's just become, mythology. Like a lot of things in the city.
I think the big question as someone who's an Everton fan is how does such a big Liverpool fan come up with a song called All Together Now, which was hugely connected to Everton, wasn't it?
Well, only since 1995, really, because it was a massive hit in 1990. And Everton were probably the 4th or 5th football team to use it, to adopt it.
Oh, right.
And God's honest truth, I didn't want them to use it. And but my dad, who's been a season ticket holder at Anfield since 1962, when they built the Kemlyn Road, which is now called the Kenny Dalglish stand, he, after weeks of me saying no, because it wasn't because it was Everton, because the business wasn't as bad in 1995. It was because they were changing the words, and it was Joe Ainsworth who used to write for Brookside, and the script writer. He wrote The Last Bus, a film which was out recently. He wrote the words, and my dad said, "Look, if you don't give it to them, you're being a hypocrite, aren't you? Because no man's land is two enemies coming together in no man's land." And then the end was, oh God. So, but our guitarist, you see, was an Evertonian, Keith Mullen, and there was 3 of the band were Liverpoolians and 1 was an Evertonian, and he kept on. He did The Last Day of the Cop for us and didn't complain. He also did the Ian Rush testimonial for us and didn't complain. We stopped the riot, by the way, at half time. So Elton Wellesby said, "Get on there, they're about to riot." Bring them together, but all together now. And so it was a great moment, that, because the whole Anfield Road Celtic was singing All Together Now, but so we let them use it, but it's like on me. It's all, I get reminded of it all the time. And the reality is, we were never paid a penny for it, because the company, it was the players' pool who arranged it, and they promised Dave Watson and various people promised Keith and everyone tickets and all that. I didn't want to go, but some of the group went, Keith went with his kids and that, and Steve went with his kid because he was an Evertonian, even though his dad was a Liverpoolian, So it was like, at that time, we just thought, 6 months' time we get paid royalties in there, because they sold quite a lot, and the company went into liquidation. So we never got a penny in there. But,
did you get any money, Tom?
No, but I must say that we're in the 95 Cup final. I actually think the song had a lot to do with it, because I think it brought all the fans. It was a song, wasn't it, that you could all join in, and I think he united us to give us that extra little bit for the game. So
it's something I don't really want to hear.
I know, but I think it was
the words resonated. With Everton fans at the time. I remember being parked up actually in Wembley in a car park. Yeah. And this guy in his minibus, and it was blaring out from this minibus, and everyone walking around were all singing it,
Because it was so easy to sing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so easy to sing.
It's up there with the worst decisions in my life. Well, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because the FA wanted to use it in 2004, which we allowed them to use it because they said we want integration. We don't want it to be right-wing England fans just supporting England. We want the whole nation. So we let them use it. And I said, and by the way, we were going to use it for Euro 96, but Everton used it the year before. You know,
well, at the time, if you go back as well, we were the Dogs of War, weren't we? Everton were known as the Dogs of War, and one thing you need is that togetherness and that team spirit, and the song brought all that in abundance, didn't it?
Yeah, I suppose
to the fans and to the team. So I think it had a huge part in Everton's history, now, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was also used in the German World Cup in 2006. They had a version of it. It's been about 30 versions, but obviously because I'm a Liverpoolian, I constantly get reminded of the Everton version.
Of course,
and I'd say now on reflection, I shouldn't have let them use it.
Well, I'll never let you. I'll never let you get away with that one anyway, Peter. I always remind you of it. But listen, let's talk about you and Liverpool. And who were your heroes growing up? I mean, you grew up in such a special time for Liverpool.
Yeah, well, it was. I don't remember really Bill Shankly's first team. You know what I mean? But I remember his second team. So I started going to matches. My dad was taking me to the matches. He said, when I was a youngster and that. But I can't really remember much about them. But I remember going in the Anfield Road when I was a kid. I wasn't hard enough for the boys' pen. You had to be hard to go in the boys' pen.
Liverpool's was massive as well, if I remember rightly.
Well, Everton had the cage, didn't we? The cage was like prehistoric, wasn't it? It was unbelievable, the cage. But Liverpool's boy pen, the idea was to get into the Kop, wasn't it? Everyone used to try and climb over all the time. So I started going in the Anfield Road, and then we played Everton, and it was I think it was a Tommy Wright own goal. But I think we won 4-0. It was early 70s. Right. But then when Everton fans come in, and I'm not just saying this, but a lot of missiles started coming from the back to the front, and hitting all the women and kids at the front. So I thought, I'm not coming in here again. So I never went in there again. I went in the Kop then the next game, sitting on a bar in the middle of the Kop, and that's where I stayed for a few years, And it was great against Stoke and West Brom and Leicester and all that. But we played Man United once, and I got pushed off the barrier, and I'd usually be able to get back to it. I couldn't. It was just too tight. So I got passed over the heads. And that happened to me mum as well in the 1950s. Yeah. So it's a family tradition. Because that's what used to happen. If you were in trouble in the middle of the Kop, they'd pass you over the heads down to the front. I remember the fellas with the selling the chewies and that, they always used to get the person, didn't they? They'd look into the Gladys Street and to the Kop. And they'd throw the money down and they'd throw it back, and they'd always get the chewies.
And they only stand with a multiple toilet facilities, people's pockets, I think, was it?
Yeah, I think, we had something in the End magazine that we did about that, but, I went in the middle of the Kop for probably for like 20 during that period, 70s and the 80s, up until it became all seated. And, people did piss on the floor, like, no doubt about it, but pockets, I think it's a bit of a myth,
Yeah.
Well, I never knew that,
In those days, there was a lot.
It was a rolled up echo, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was a rolled up echo, and that's what. And like after the game, you would see, as Evertonians gleefully say, rivers of piss. Yeah. But it's the same in the Gladys Street.
Well, but those players that you mentioned, I mean, so who would be in that second Shankly year? You're looking at, was Jimmy Case around then? Alec Lindsay, Chris Lawler?
It was Keegan. It's probably, Keegan was a bit of a hero.
The man,
I liked when they bought Peter Cormack.
Yeah.
He was a quality player. Very much in the Firmino style. From modern days, but. Yeah, and obviously the local players like Phil Thompson and
of course. Phil Thompson,
because we identified with him. Because some of one of my mates at school got signed by Shankly before he retired in '74. And we thought he's going to big thing. He never actually played for the first team, but he had a good career as a player. But we were all thinking local boy does good, and so Steve Highway as well.
Yeah,
but when Toshak came, he was a revelation. Toshak Keegan 1-0. It was like
they were the original sort of big man small man combination.
Yeah, and they had that. They even had programs about it. The telepathy.
Yes.
And they actually had a program about that. I
remember them doing it.
Well, let's just think, as good players, they'd know where each other would be.
I mean, I always remember the great story. I interviewed Alec Lindsay. You remember, was the left back. And I remember him telling me that Shankly had actually, or they'd signed the wrong player. he wasn't the player. There was 2 players at Bury where they'd signed him from, and he wasn't the player that they should have signed. And it was only when he got to Anfield apparently. So, but what a great team that was.
Yeah, it was, and like Alec Lindsay scored one of the great Wembley goals.
That's right.
That was disallowed for, and it shouldn't have been disallowed if you see it now. So it would have been 4-0 against Newcastle.
Well, we spoke about that goal, and I asked him about it, and he said, yeah. He said, well, what happened was, he said, it scored. He said, and I jumped over the barriers. He said, and I ran to the Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
He said, and I turned round, and Newcastle were attacking. So I had to come. They were all shouting me to come on. I mean, those were the days, Joe. Where I mean, you'll remember. I mean, you're obviously. It's a bit after you were after that time, but obviously you will have remembered those type of players.
Of course, my team is the 80s team, wasn't it? Yeah. And the famous goal. Peter's here talking, big Liverpool fan. The famous goal growing up was Sharpie's goal at Anfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember.
And we had a great team because growing up, Liverpool were dominating Europe and winning titles after titles, and then all of a sudden Everton have a team. So when I was going to school, you could sort of hold court. Because we had a good team. It was a really good team, wasn't it? For what was it, 4 years, maybe 5 years. And then we won Europe, didn't we? And the rest is history then. And Liverpool have carried success on for many years. Everton hopefully can get back to that at some stage. But back in them days, we had some good players, some really like Peter Reid and Trevor Stephen. These were like players who were all playing for England, weren't they? All full international players, and could give Liverpool a good game of football. Do you know what I mean? And then the derby games was just something else. And I was lucky enough to go and play in a few of them. But yeah, brilliant days.
Yeah.
Peter, has football influenced your musical sort of talent, if you like? Has it played a part in how you write?
Well, When I joined the band, my main love was football, but music, I was always going to concerts and that, so I was very wary of the Farm becoming like a football band, because we'd seen what had happened to Sham 69 and the Cockney Rejects and groups like that, whereas they couldn't play anywhere because West Ham fans used to follow them round and there'd be absolute chaos, So we were very wary about that, but I think in terms of what I wanted to appeal to is when we started the End magazine, is Liverpool and Everton fans that went to football matches, who had a certain style about them. And there's just a great book out at the moment called Counterculture, which is about street fashion from 1977 to 2000. And I've written the foreword for it. Because in those days, Liverpool fans and Everton fans used to get on a lot better, and it was down to the fashion, I think.
Yeah.
And still, some of my good mates are Evertonians who we grew up by meeting in town, and we'd meet in places like Scarlet's Bar and Star and Garter or Maxwell's Plum or bars like that. Yeah. And it didn't matter whether you were Liverpool and Everton. Yeah. We used to mix. We used to mix because it was a fashion thing. And I was talking to Tony before about when people used to go on the Anfield Road ends. They used to sing because of they didn't think KOPITES went to away matches as much as the Anfield Road crowd. They started singing KOPITES are gobshites. That's a Liverpool song.
Amazing,
it is, because when people went to away matches without any scarves on, it was like, it's the Anfield Road ones who were going, and they're the ones who were in danger, basically. But I know I went to Paris in '81. Out 10 of us who went to Paris, 4 of them were Evertonians, and they just came for a laugh.
Well, that's where all the clobber come from, you see, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they probably went for other reasons and just for a laugh, to take a little bit of the cost back or something. I think they genuinely went just for an experience. So we went on to Paris on the Saturday. The game wasn't until Wednesday, and they didn't even want to go in the game because they weren't bitter Evertonians, but they didn't want to see Liverpool. They had no interest. But because the Echo had said there's a ring of steel around the ground, they thought we'd go and see if we can get in.
Test it.
And they just walked in behind me. They didn't even. Yeah. It wasn't even an attempt. It was just like they just walked in.
But it's funny.
Just talking about fashion. Liverpool's always been a fashionable city, hasn't it? But probably football might have kicked a lot of stuff off.
I think it did. Yeah, especially on the terraces of Anfield and Goodison.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Liverpool, it was Everton as well, of course, because, you know, people were going abroad to get rare training shoes, and Wade Smith ended up in 1982 building an empire out of it, didn't he?
Right,
the Wade Smith shop.
Yeah.
And there's a documentary called Casuals, which I narrate, and the interview Wade Smith, and he said from 82 to 1984, Liverpool, his shop was the best selling Adidas shop in the world. It was outselling the likes of New York and Los Angeles. It was outselling. He said the nearest rival was Manchester, but his shop outsold the whole of Manchester 3-1, and the whole of London 10-1, because at the time, sports like training shoes were not a fashion item as such. They were in Liverpool and some parts of the country, but you know, when Wade Smith went over to Germany to buy 500 pair of like rare training shoes, the German owner said, are they all playing tennis in Liverpool? You know, it was like they didn't understand the phenomenon. It was only years later that Adidas or Adidas got onto it, you know.
Incredible. I mean, I think the best I can offer you from the 70s was a silk scarf. I think that's as fashionable as I ever got to. But you remember them, you know, the silk scarf. They
were great, the silk scarves, and you know, also the scarves with the bars in them.
That's right.
Yeah, we had one like, which is ironic, supporters all over the world, and that was the early 70s. But at the time, and I can say this for fact, my nan lived just off Oakfield Road. So when Everton were playing at home, I'd get the bus by the Oak, get off and walk down Priory Road. Everton coaches, there was probably 40 to 50 coaches, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, everywhere. When Liverpool played at home, there was about 2 or 3 coaches, Tamworth and some. And I used to think, supporters going on the way, that's a bit of a trade description job. That's Everton. That's Everton. You know. So how times have changed, because I used to think, will we ever be as big as them? And this was
amazing,
Everton had just won the league. So it was 70-71, I think that period would have been. So I'd be going to my nan's. So I know, because we used to go every Saturday.
Because Everton just won the league as well, hadn't they, in the 70s?
And I was just about starting to go to matches as well. So when Liverpool were on, I'd still do that walk and go into the ground. But when Everton were, I'd still do the same walk. And I used to be jealous. So the irony, I tell Evertonians this all the time. And, you know, there's a bit of like, you know, what are you on about? You're the tallest club.
Is it a set-up?
Well, Sky Sports has probably had something to do with all that, though, hasn't it? The change definitely. A little bit. Do you know what I mean?
At the time, you know, Everton had won the league, so, you know, the School of Science period, wasn't it? So they had a lot of popular appeal, you know. And their average gates were probably just a little bit higher than Liverpool. But after that, with the demise of Everton in the 70s, you know, gates started to drop off, and Liverpool always had a lot more fans, local fans, in terms of going to the match, you know. But as I say, it's a very confused period, because, you know, people say, oh, tourist club, that's down to success. When Shankly started doing, he won the UEFA Cup. And then when Paisley took over and won it again in 75, 76, 77, the European Cup, that's when Liverpool popularity exploded, you know. And people now say about so many tourists coming. I remember going to Wembley in 78 as a Liverpool fan. And there's one of my mates there who used to go all the away games, Smigger from Kirby, and he had a Bruce scarf on, and he had it tied like a student. And I was saying to him, like, hey, look good there, Smigger, like. And he's going, I got to wear this. Do you know half of these? No one knew any of them. Because they weren't regular Liverpool fans. They'd come, because of UEFA, they'd come from all around the country to support Liverpool, you know. So that was the first time, that was 78. That's when I first noticed that, you know, Liverpool's popularity had gone through the roof, you know.
And that coincides with success, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
European success tracks,
And Norway used to have live games on at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. So that's why there's so many Norwegian. And there are Norwegian blues, of course, but not as many.
Of course,
Because I know the lads who do blue kipper, because I used to play football with them. And I remember saying to them, I see you got on your website Norwegian blues, and they took it down straight away. You can't have that on the website.
No.
That was Steve Jones. I don't know if you
Blue Kibble, great thing. I mean, at the end, you mentioned it a couple of times. I mean, funny enough, just before we go on about the end, but you reminded me there when both the ends of the grounds would that banter together, wouldn't they? You know, when you're talking about the KOPITES song, you know, like even at Everton, there would be a rivalry between the street end and the park end.
Definitely,
you know, and that seems to have stopped now, doesn't it? You know, it's not the same. But was the Anfield Road the same with the Kop?
Yeah. I remember it was a very foggy night once. Can't remember who we were playing, but it was like the Kop was singing Any Road, who scored the goal? There was no one you couldn't see. You know,
I remember that. Yeah,
there's a bit of that, but you know, the Anfield Road now do sing.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of it's hospitality there now.
Yes, of course.
You know, and a lot of it is like people coming in, but you know, they do sing now. You know, so we used to go to Celtic and think, my God, look at this. I remember Nicky Holt saying, you know, just imagine the whole ground singing and that, like they do at Celtic, and the whole ground does sing now. And probably same at Everton's new ground, isn't it? You know.
But the end, I mean, that was a great. I mean, I've been having a flick through this morning. What a great publication that was. Yeah,
well, I was a youth worker, you see, so I was encouraging people to write. Like, you look at Facebook now, you know, it's a good idea, encouraging people to write. But at the time, so we sold it at both Liverpool and Everton games. And even though I think there's 4 or 5 Liverpoolians and maybe a couple of Evertonians did it, nobody really knew who we supported, because it was all... it wasn't a football fanzine as such. It was observational humour about bouncers, about taxi drivers or coach drivers, you know. So there was elements of football, the don't let ons. We had characters like Joe Wag and Dosser and that. And we were even saying in the end, in those days, you know, Liverpool would become a tourist attraction. You know, this was after the riots, you see. So we were thinking of something else. People had got a post-industrial tourist attraction, but now you walk around town. I do music tours in town, and I can't believe the number of tourists. People are just flooding into Liverpool. Like it is good to see. You know, some of the hen parties and stag nights are a bit embarrassing, aren't they? I call that Dublin's revenge, because all the English used to go to Dublin, but they clamped down on that. You know, but I think Matthew C can be a bit embarrassing.
But even football, you know, integrates into that, isn't it? Because you've got the Dixie Dean Hotel and the Shankly Hotel, and they almost become a rival as well, didn't they? So music that music and football connection is huge in this city.
And like as you know, I love showing people around the city. I absolutely love it, you know, and you know. It's great because you're very proud of the city and it's the musical history, but also the football history, you know. And I'm saying to Tony about Spirits of Shankly, I'm the vice chair of, like, we do a lot of community work in Anfield, and we got kids to a play about the split called Common Ground. Because the clubs were very close in the early days, you know.
Of course.
And we went to see the play. It was in the Lighthouse opposite the on Oakfield Road there, opposite the Sandon, more or less. And they all got dressed up as Victorians, the kids, and it was about the split between Everton and Liverpool. And it wasn't just the rent. There was loads of political reasons, you know.
It's a fascinating story, isn't it?
It's an unbelievable story, and a lot of it's down to beer and commercialisation, and we think of 1892 commercialisation, you know, but it was on a smaller scale then, obviously. But you know, it was still there, you know.
I mean, when you think about those times, I mean, I've studied them a little bit in the fact when I've worked for TV and I've done features on it, and you know, been up into the room where that meeting took place and all those sort of things. It's a fascinating history, you know, and probably, you know, one we could fill another podcast with. But you mentioned Spirits of Shankly, and I want to move on to the time when, you know, we're talking about foreigners and influences into the city, but you know, when Tom Hicks and George Gillette came to Liverpool, and of course, you know, yourself and myself were quite involved at that time for very different reasons. But when you look back at, I mean, we've got an interview coming up later on in the week, which is, I'm sure Liverpool fans will be fascinated to listen to. But when you look back on that time, that was quite a moment in Liverpool's history, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was a watershed, I think. It was a watershed because Liverpool fans had never really protested. There was no tradition of protesting against managers or players or owners.
There's no need to, was there?
But, you know, when they came over in 2007 and bought the club off David Moores, you know, I did a bit of Googling and that and found out the background, and they didn't seem to have, you know, very much background in terms of, you know, they were obviously involved in sports franchises, but that's what it was. They'd come and buy something cheap and sell it, you know, and Hicks famously called it like Weetabix, didn't he? He said, we'll buy a company that's struggling and then we'll build it up a bit and then sell it for a vast profit, you know. So I'd done a bit of research. So I didn't welcome them with open arms. I did an article about it saying, you know, be careful what you wish for, you know, because David Moores had the best interest of the club at heart. I'm sure he did, but he just didn't think he could compete with the Abramoviches of the world, and in reality he couldn't really. And
in the end, you sell to who's the best buyer, don't you?
Yeah, but a couple of Googles should have alerted some people. So I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, we started getting tipped off by people saying that, you know, all's not well, you know, and it was mainly journalists who remain anonymous.
Yes.
But they were saying to us, there's some things going behind the scenes, and they've done exactly what they said they wouldn't do, like United have done, and a really complicated financial arrangement. So there's a holding company in the Cayman Islands or something like that, you know. So we started looking into it, and a lot of fans started getting concerned about it. And that's how the Spilsy Shankly started, you know, because we started having mass meetings and marching on the street, which was unheard of before that. You know, a lot of people would say, like, you know, we were always against Hicks and Gillette, but it was only really 10% of the crowd. Liverpool used to get gates of 45,000. The most we ever had in sit-ins at the end of the game would be 5,000, you know. So it was only a 10%. A lot of people fold their arms and go, not, you know, get behind the team, you know, because you can understand that mentality.
There's always that challenge, isn't there, with people, because they don't want to. They're there for football, aren't they?
And it's an escapism, and we can understand that. But we were getting financial experts tipping us off, saying they're in real problems here, and all this idea that Liverpool weren't on the brink of administration, it's all come out now that they were. The RBS were going to pull the plug, weren't they? A week or so, you know.
I think that, I mean, you're right to mention it. It was very much a sort of Glazer model, wasn't it? Really, when you look at it, was, you know, and
even though they promised that it wouldn't be,
and I think that's what I think personally. My own view from when I look back at the time, I think that was the thing which Liverpool fans couldn't deal with. If you know what I mean, or, you know, the hardcore Liverpool fans. That wasn't the model that Liverpool Football Club should be involved in. I mean, was that fair enough?
I think so. Yeah, and also you were thinking of, you know, they were brought, you know, they came in to say we can buy the best players now, and they did. They bought Torres and Mascherano and players like that, which were great for that 2007-2008 period. Nearly won the league 2008 to 2009. God help us, what happened? They won the league, because it might have been the demise of the club, because the process would have died down, because obviously when you're successful on the pitch,
go away.
You know, they evaporate. You know. So we were very concerned about what was going on, but Benitez was tipping people off all the time as well, journalists, favoured journalists. So we were getting told that he can't buy players, you know, and he can't do this, he can't do that. And he was promised players, certain players, and so there was all sorts. But I think the crowd was split. I think it was 50-50 with Benitez, because you're also getting leaks from players as well, saying, you know, we should have won the league in 2008, and maybe we should have done, but we didn't have the mentality that Ferguson's team had, you know, and we beat them at Old Trafford 4-1, didn't we? You know, and it was, you know, we absolutely destroyed them, but we didn't have that. And in a way, in 2014, if Brendan Rodgers had won, we'd never have got Klopp. So it's all fate, really, isn't it? It's fate.
You're making me smile inside, really, because I remember sitting in, would you believe, the Texas Rangers game with next to Tom Hicks, and because for some reason he was happy to do interviews for me. You know, my interview style has always been, I allow people to speak. I don't judge them. I allow people to speak. Now, that's not in the true sense of journalism. You know, there's very much a different way of of being a journalist, and I get that, and that's a very important part of journalism. But for me, I used to just allow people to say, and let the audience judge, you know. And of course, I did what they call the famous fireside interview when he
was that
sat,
you?
That was me. Yeah.
That was the end of him.
Yeah, I mean, well,
down to Alistair.
Evertonian.
It was definitely down to me. But the thing is, I remember sitting in. You just reminded me. I remember sitting in Texas Rangers when we were watching a game, and Tom kept showing me texts he was getting from Rafa Benitez. You know, and you realise then, as a journalist and as a football fan, you know, the turmoil that was at the club, and there was a lot of infighting, and there was a lot of people who were not quite together, you know, in the way it should be, you know. But of course, then the big thing that came, I mean, I think a lot of it at that time was down to the financial atmosphere, you know, around, and not atmosphere, what's the word I'm looking at?
Financial collapse in 2008 was
exactly
was massive,
that's what did for them, really.
Yeah,
because
I think so,
if that hadn't have happened, they probably would still, I would think, still even own the club now. But I was actually in Dallas for the court case on the morning, because they tried to stop FSG from doing what they did. Or it was any something, I can't remember the actual term now. It wasn't FSG as such, but I was actually there in the morning in Dallas at 7 o'clock in the morning in court, and that didn't work. You know, he tried to stop it. You know, that didn't work. And then of course we saw the pictures. I got sent the pictures of Ian Ayre and the FSG all coming out of the court in the High Court in London. You know, with the success. And I remember I was telling somebody today, you know, that I remember being in the back of the car with Tom Hicks. We were going, you know, because it had all been done. We'd done an interview and everything, and then we were going. And I asked him, I said, so what have you lost today, Tom? You know, and he said, I've lost $76 million, and so has George. He said, but that's not why I'm pissed. You know, of course, means upset in America, doesn't it? And I said, so why are you upset? So he said, because it's the $3.5 billion I'll lose
in the future,
in 15 years. Just going back to your earlier point, you know, about the model and about the intentions, if you like, I guess that's where the problem was, that their thinking was about in the future and how they could monetize the club rather than being your own. Like if you look at Sheikh Mansour at City, and you know, they've almost become the local owner, haven't they, in that respect, because they enjoy the football and they, you know, it's not about business. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. And like Sheikh Mansour, I think it's on record that they were Liverpool fans, weren't they? But they couldn't buy the
everyone
club.
globally is a Liverpool fan.
Well, quite billions. But I think the one of the, it was either Hicks or Gillette, one of them wouldn't sell to them. And
that's right.
You know, I think that was the
So going back then, because I don't know as much as you guys know on the Gillette saga. You just said you bought Torres and you bought Mascherano, and you were going close in the league. So as a fan group, what was it that, it was just the future, that you had no money for the future?
It was the debt that was building the club.
Right, okay.
And the fact that they put it in holding offshore, which they said they'd never do, and it was a franchise.
But you
model,
know, okay, so you know, like looking now, Liverpool report they spent a lot of money in the summer. I know they've recouped some money back, but is the debt not similar now, or is it just done a different way now?
It's done a different way. So Liverpool is self-sustaining now. In those days, you know, 40 to 50 million was going on bank interest. You know, there's a better setup now. So FSG are undoubtedly better owners, but everyone was moaning at FSG because they weren't buying, and we'd won the league. But you've got to buy from stand they bought, and it's turned into a bit of a nightmare because now we don't know whether they were slot decisions or whether they were Richard Hughes decisions to buy these players. We don't know, but he's found it difficult to fit the like of Wirtz in. You can tell Wirtz is a great player, but you know, it's how you fit him in, because that midfield from last season, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai and McAllister were perfect.
He looks to me, Wirtz, as though he'd suit a Man City style of play. Still, I think Liverpool are trying to get to that stage, but they can't get to that.
I think he Champions League, he'll
possibly,
suit the Champions League as well. Which, but you know, but a lot of
you'll find
fans.
out tomorrow, because is it tonight? Is it, or tomorrow? You got Real Madrid.
But it's So it just shows you money can't buy you love, can it really? Or it can't buy you a team, because, you know, everyone's scratching their heads going, what's gone wrong here? You know, obviously we got back to winning ways on Saturday because we had more or less the team that we had last year, more or less playing, you know. And
in defence, though, there has been a lot of change at the club, hasn't there, over the summer? And I think, Tony, you'll know this, you know, coming to a new country or players coming to another country and having to settle down, there's always going to be that period where, you know, percentage-wise, it's probably not going to be as easy as
no. And think. I think all these clubs who are buying players, they're all good players. Yeah. Whether some fans don't like them when they play for them or what, it's you know, it's an opinions game anyway. But they're all good players. Yeah. The Premier League's the killer. That's the demands of the Premier League, and the difference with the Premier League than any other country, it's the fans. It's nearly every game you're on top of them. Yeah. But our British way is we want excitement. We want the ball round the box. We you know, it's freezing over here for 5 or 6 months of the season. It's freezing cold. You're not in Spain where you just sit back and you're just chilling. But it's freezing, and the fans pay the money, and they want to see a certain way. Now that normally means winning. You've got to win. Yeah. But if we're talking about your Everton and that, Liverpool have been used to winning, and now they've lost a couple of important players, such as the right back and the left winger. Diaz, is it? Yeah. They were the two really. Actually, they were probably world class players in my opinion, because I love the right back. The right back was a fantastic It is a fantastic footballer, and he got a bit of stick, not from people like me, but because that's just football. You just get that anyway. Yeah. But you've took 2 world class players out your team. Now they've replaced them with good players. Whether they're going to be world class players in the Premier League, that's always going to be the debate, isn't it? And now, because they've just won the league, they are the scalp now, aren't they? So now they've got the added pressure of being the best team in the league. So, as you're saying, they won yesterday, and they needed to win, didn't they? Really?
Yeah, they needed to win. To stop the rot, really.
To stop the rot.
To stop the cause of crisis, you know. And but that's right. Obviously, I don't know if you watched the game, but the crowds are right behind Arne Slot, because all that noise is just social media. Yeah, it's the real fans. You know, he's got loads in the bank. You know, of course he has. He's just won the league.
Well, it's funny. So I was chatting to someone the other day, and social media is a big part of it. I think our country with social media and the press, they come after you. When they come after you, because I think Arne Slot comes across as a good guy.
I think the press are being led by social media at times now. Yeah. They're taking their lead from social media now, which never happened. It was always the other way around. Yeah. But you're right. You said instant gratification. You know, you're only as good as your last result, aren't you?
You know, and who would have seen this coming? You know, and you know, they haven't been. You know, we've been outplayed in a lot of those games, but you know, we got last minute equalisers, but then we got another goal again. You know, it's these things can happen. You know,
that's the beauty of the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah,
really,
as well. As you said,
I'm just surprised with the long throws. Because Stoke used to get laughed at about that, didn't he? Yeah. You know, the long throws just become a thing, hasn't it? Yeah. And other teams now just get a throw in against Liverpool.
But to be fair though,
it's been a thing for a long time.
Yeah, and it's crazy. If you had someone with the ability to do that, who's a starter in your team, to not utilise it because you want to follow the fad at the time, it's a crazy thing.
I didn't see you as a long throw.
No, I wasn't.
You were more of
do you
a
remember
player.
I played with a guy years ago who probably had the longest throw even to now. He's actually the manager of Stockport now. So I went on loan to Tranmere. Oh, right. Like called Dave Chalner. He's the manager of Stockport now. He could throw it from the halfway line. I swear, from the halfway line. And it's going like a rocket in the 6-yard box.
Well, he was the one that they stopped being able to use a towel, didn't they?
Was it because of him?
Yeah,
so it's his fault.
But I think they let them do it now. But you know, funny you should say that. But I mean, I imagine these because I think Liverpool were one of the first to bring in a throwing coach. Do you remember that? A few years ago, they actually brought in a throwing coach.
I don't know if they've still got him.
I don't think. I think he went after about a year, if I remember right.
He's gone to Brentford, I think.
Has he? but like it isn't a new thing. You know, I remember it from the 70s. You know that it would happen. You know, at times throw it into the mix. I think was the phrase we used to use.
Well, we all loved the way Barcelona used to play, and the way Man City used to play, and all that. But you know, I know what you're saying. I think when Klopp came along and it was like heavy metal football, he called it, didn't he? And it was like, we've got it. You can score 3, but we'll score 4. That was his mentality, wasn't it? You know. Yeah. And like Slot came in, and it was a totally different. It was more controlled. You could see it was controlled.
Well, I done an interview last year when Liverpool were top of the league, and I thought Klopp created a top team. Right, this is what I thought. And at the time, and I still stand on it now, even though they won the league comfortably last year, I don't think Slot got to that level. In the same way, I'm watching City now, I don't City are getting to the level of the best City teams.
No.
In the same way, Barcelona will never get to the level of Pep's Barcelona because they can't get them players.
Yeah.
But I watch Liverpool now, and I just don't see... They might have a different way with Slot, but I think the Klopp way was the exciting way. If I was a fan going to the game, that's the exciting way. But
I think, you know, it's a transition. If someone had said to you I always say to those people, someone said to you last season, we'll win the league this season, but next season it'll be a bit of a transition. You would have took it all day, wouldn't you?
Well, we would.
But, you know, you take it all day, but, you know, I don't think Isak, you know, he hasn't had a pre-season, has he?
No.
You know, Huertas comes from another country, but then other people say, well, what about Sunderland? They've got 9 new players, you know. It's like, you always got that counter-argument. Yeah. But I think after Christmas, you know, if Liverpool was still getting beat regularly, I'd be a bit worried. But I think they'll go on a bit of a run myself, you know.
But here's the thing, you know, I heard someone saying, you know, Slot won the league last year with Jurgen Klopp's team.
Yeah.
Now, I have a bit of a dispute over that because I think, well, Jurgen Klopp had that team the year before and didn't win the league. Yeah. You know, but Slot did win the league with it. So, I mean, I think that's a bit unfair, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. It is because he certainly brought something which Klopp didn't have, and that was like an air of calm. Yeah. You know, with Klopp's team, it used to be...
Never know what
you know, you didn't know what was going to happen. But, you know, it was fantastic to watch. It was unbelievable being there. But, yeah, I think... Slot brought an air of composure, but I think Tony's right. I think losing Trent, the composure that Trent had on the ball is missed. You know, the excitement that Diaz taking on players now Gakpo's a good player, but you know, we hit the post how many times against United? 4 times or something. If they go in, it's a different ball. You know, it's a different game. And
Tony, we're going to end. We're near time now, but we're going to end with back to the music. And I know you're a massive music fan. Where did the farm?
The Groovy Train. That was the first time. The Groovy Train. Now, I think Liverpool's been known for producing unbelievable football and unbelievable music for forever, haven't they? Forever. And then the farm, obviously. 95. The Groovy Train was the Groovy Train before that, wasn't it?
1990,
yeah. Groovy Train was top of the pops, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you remember top of the pops? You know, probably threw a few moves out of the Groovy Train. But there was catchy songs, so they stick with you, don't they? The catchy songs, and then obviously 95 song comes along, and as I say, I think you've got a lot to take credit for, Peter. As in. I don't think we'd have won the FA Cup without that song. To be honest with you, that's
Keith Mullen.
So it's Keith Mullen. So it's give it to Keith then. Yeah. But no, I think Liverpool's been and it's full of artistic people in Liverpool. And Peter's talking about the city now, from the city in the 80s and 90s. I remember the first Wade Smith shop. It was down by Seal Street. Would that be right? Slater Street. Yeah. Little tiny thing, as big as this place, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
But it had all my first pair of trainers from there was a pair of green Lecoq Sportif, would you believe? But you couldn't get them. And Liverpool as a city has just been growing and growing and growing, and it's full of people like Peter and loads of young musicians, loads of dreams and hopes in Liverpool. Yeah. And it's brilliant to get Peter in, because I listened to his history before, and it's something I want to hear more of. Because I didn't know the whole story of Everton leaving Anfield. And I think if you're an Evertonian, it's a brilliant story. And I'd imagine thousands know it, but there's thousands who won't know it, especially the younger ones.
There's a much deeper story, as Peter's alluded to.
Well, it's Peter Lupson's book that I got a lot of it from. He wrote Across the Park.
Right.
And also A Common Ground. And about the history of the clubs. And most clubs, a majority of them started from churches, didn't they? That's what St. Domingo was, Everton, you know. And it's religion, politics, it's all sorts, you know. And and commercialism, even in those days, you know.
It's a fascinating melting pot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can I just say, by the way, when you're talking about Wade Smith and fashion, it's like a foreign language.
Yeah,
to me.
I can see that.
I had Birmingham bags in the 90s, you know what I mean? That was my story. But Pete, you've got a new album out as well.
It's the new album, It's on vinyl, as well as CD and other formats, but let the music take control.
What's the inspiration behind this?
We haven't had an album for decades, you know. We've been basically doing lots of festivals, and we started writing new stuff basically around about COVID, you know, because we thought we should have played more, you know, because everyone thought at the time it'll never go back to normal.
Of course, yeah.
So we started writing some stuff, and then we put some stuff on Spotify, and it started getting popular, you know, on Radio 2, one of the tracks, Field of Love, and they playlisted it. And I was getting messages off the likes of Suggs and that going, how did you do that? You know, we haven't got a plugger. They've just picked up on it.
Brilliant.
You know, because usually to get on the radio, you need pluggers.
Of course,
You need people who are like agents. They go into the radio station and say, you know, can you listen to this? And then there's a playlist committee that decide what goes on the playlist, you know. And so it got quite a few plays. Then we played Glastonbury 2024. I did Glastonbury this year as well, but not with the group.
What was that experience like?
It's the best place in the world for me, you know. It's 6 days of like bliss, you know. And I mean, the Scousers everywhere.
Bliss is one word, isn't it? But
the Scousers everywhere, you know. I mean, and like, you know, everyone's chilled, you know, and like, you know.
And do they want the old songs? Is that you know? Because you've got to get that balance between old and new.
We're doing a tour with the Happy Mondays in the spring. So, you know, we'll probably play about 10 songs, or probably 3 of them will be new ones, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you need the old ones, don't you?
You need the old ones, but I think the new ones are going down really well. And that's why we started recording them. Because people at festivals will be saying, why don't you release these new ones? I said, well, we haven't got a record deal. Unfortunately, we put them on Spotify, and now Modern Sky, who are a Liverpool record label, who have Jamie Webster and Red Rum Club and all that, Jay Pitchlingy from Modern Sky said, I want to release it. Like, so we were going brilliant.
Fantastic. You know? And of course, we've all slaughtered social media today, but I guess that's a help as well, isn't it?
Of course it is, you know, but it's certain things, like it's when, obviously, when your song gets used for various things, and altogether now gets used for absolutely everything. And sometimes it gets used for, like, you know, almost Nazi party, you know, stuff. And we try and get it taken down. And the record company said, we can't do much now because Elon Musk's not interested in taking it down, you know. So it has changed. But I think that's why people have gone on to different platforms. But, you know, social media, it's so relevant in terms of getting your message out there. You know, for your podcast, you know, you need a social media presence to let people know that it exists. It's not flyers anymore, is it?
No.
Or posters. It's social media, isn't there?
There's no walking around.
You know, I'm doing a Wings book on Thursday at Waterstones, and it's got to be on social media, you know, and that's. You don't put posters up going, you know, we're discussing Paul McCartney's new book, you know. It's always got on the flyers, though, on social media, Paul will not be attending this event, which makes me think maybe he is. Well, listen,
we wish you all the best with the new album, and, you know, you've very kindly given us one which we'll give away on the podcast. But it's been a pleasure. You can see, you know, that the passion is still there for both Liverpool Football Club, for football in general, and also for music. So it's been great to have you in, Peter.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot.
So, and if you've enjoyed this episode of the Added Time podcast, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.